This episode's brought to you by Farmer Bill's Provisions. Use code Malice for 15% off their delicious air-dried beef or bison today. Let me tell you guys something. Since I've moved to Austin, there's a huge eating healthy community here. This is where the Whole Foods started. You know the whole scene. And something everyone's been raving about for a couple of years here is biltong. And I thought it was some exotic antelope meat, and it's not. What biltong is, it's beef jerky, but better, because regular beef jerky has nitrates, soy, sugars, and fillers. But biltong, it comes from South Africa. It's a cured meat snack without any of that stuff. Now, Farmer Bill's is the best biltong, and they were very smart because they sent it to me, and I've been using it as protein, and it is good, and you don't feel kind of like all bloated, like that all that salt from beef jerky sometimes tends to do. So Farmer Bill's is an American-owned company. They source their beef and bison from South Dakota. They sell pre-sliced biltong as well as 1 pound charcuterie slabs. Now, the slabs are like a dry-aged ribeye with marbled fat and the perfect amount of salt. And their flavors are original beef, spicy chili beef, original bison, and spicy chili bison. So why reach for a protein bar full of carbs and sugar or ultra-processed jerky? And why snack on like potato chips or cookies? This is a great way to snack on something that's a high-protein food. So you can still have those cravings, but you're eating something that's not going to turn you into a house. So grab Farmer Bill's biltong today by going to farmerbillsprovisions.com. Use code Malice for 50% off your order. The owner of Farmer Bill's is a big fan of the show, so support those who support the show. Grab some of their air-dried beef and bison today. That's farmerbillsprovisions.com and use code Malice, 15% off. And here's the thing. This is maybe my Brooklyn side coming out. When your friends are over, they see what you're eating. They go, oh, can I have some of that jerky? Jerky, this is biltong. It's really great to put them in their place, which is what we all like to do with all our friends, at least those of us who have them, unlike you know who. Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We are live here at the lovely Creek in the Cave in downtown Austin. And with us, we have a very special returning guest, Lisa Pasquale. She's the author of the Social Justice Warrior Survival Handbook. What is your Substack, Lisa?
It's getbright.substack.com.
Lisa has, last time she was on was one of my absolute favorite episodes. And I have to apologize a bit, because we were talking about you always had issues all your life with your weight, about getting that under control. I'm happy to see you. I'm just giddy. I've been very blessed that you took me into your confidence. You would give me updates. And I also know that when someone else is like keeping an eye on you, it helps stay motivated, and they can also see things that you don't see in yourself. I've seen that with myself trying to get into shape. But I think I owe you a bit of an apology, because last time I was on, in an effort to kind of bond with you when you were so much heavier, I brought a lot of junk food and I was eating in front of you, and people thought that was insensitive.
Height is considered normal. Overweight because they're all heavy. I think it was mostly, when I came home, I had a single mom. So when I came home from school, dinner or, whatever, and that was sort, and I thank you. That was my, like a quantity, because it didn't taste at school, probably around, in lots of different areas, I was always sort of separated. That is because kids start to notice more. I remember there was, remember the presidential fitness or type? They all do things. Right. And so a guy's definition of curve that seemed to get along. We like weights, I obviously, and I remember opening when I was a kid. I mean, it was horrible.
Did you try like a ton of diets that just didn't work? So this time I brought a lot of healthy food, and I'm going to make us some smoothies to try to speak your new language. So before we get started, how much did you remember how much you weighed when you were on the show last time?
I weighed, I think around 210, 215.
And you're like what, 5'3"?
5'4".
Okay. And now you're down to?
I'm down to about between 148, 150.
So you are on the thin side for an average American woman.
I think so. I mean,
isn't she 160? I think 160 is the average American female.
Yeah, I guess when you're talking about average, I think I still see that's what has been an interesting shift is instead of comparing myself to the average American woman, I'm comparing myself to a healthy person.
Yeah.
So like the barometer or whatever has changed. So now, I mean, because if I compare myself to, fellow people in a small Texas town where I am, I'm like, I'm thin, I'm emaciated. But if I compare to myself, to a BMI chart, it's kind of like, oh, I'd like to lose about 5 more pounds.
Well, first of all, BMI is not a good indicator for people listening here, but it's just, I mean, the thing where people, so I want to bring up, like I brought last time, I dedicated the Anarchist Handbook to my friend Eric Dixon. He had big health weight issues all his life. He tried to get into control. He did somewhat successfully. He passed away in his early 40s of a heart attack. I still think about him all the time. He was a great dude. And I think episodes like this are really important because I think that when people have all their lives struggled with weight, they think this is just who I am. And the way I can relate to that is I had stomach issues all my life, like all my life. Every time I ate, it was like a stomach problem. My friend Annette's son now is having the same thing or much worse than I had. And this is giving me all this PTSD because I remember the doctors just having all these ridiculous things. Oh, he's swallowing his food too hard or he's stressed, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it wasn't what, and then I tried probiotics. And then like within 2 weeks, I was a normal human being, or at least in this context. And it was like, so like almost like a miracle. So I think when people have had weight issues all their life, they think this is just who and what I am, right? Mm-hmm. So can you speak to that mindset? And if people are listening to this, obviously my audience is entirely unemployed and unemployable, overweight sacks of crap. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that, it's not a thing that happened like after college or anything. It's, I was born a month premature, and that was kind of the last time I was at somewhat healthy weight. And so age 3 or 4 on, I've been on some kind of diet, usually with obviously up till 18, with my parents, wanting me to do different things. I did like a clinical trial with like a cookie that was like supposed to be your meal replacement. And of course, even as a 6 or 7-year-old, I'm like, this tastes awful. And I spread peanut butter on it. And yeah, I think at some point you feel like you've reached some point of no return, like whether it's hitting 30 or hitting 40. I didn't really I started the journey at multiple points in my life, but as far as like success, I didn't start until I was 41.
Wow. Okay. And at that point, especially as a female, no disrespect, it's like,
yeah, because it's like, what's the point? I'm barren. It's downhill from here.
Right.
Why even bother?
Right. So, but then what was different? Why didn't you give up? Why were you like, okay, I'm worth fighting? By the way, I just do want to thank you in all seriousness, because again, this is the kind of thing where I was just reading a book about the Mamas and the Papas, the band. And Mama Cass was obviously, she was like 5'1", I think like 300 her heavy, something crazy like that. And there's this big like internet rumor or old wives' tale, whatever you want to call it, that she died choking on a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
And her daughter, recently, her book came out this year and was like, this is really disrespectful. That's not what happened. It's like, I don't think dying at 30 of a massive heart attack while you're sleeping is really that much better than I choked on a ham sandwich. It's really something still horrific and just a tragic outcome of being that heavy.
Yeah. Well, and actually there's a really good podcast between her and China Phillips.
Oh,
talking about the book.
Cass Elliott's daughter? Okay.
Yeah, she has like a male first name. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think part of it is probably that the rumor took off because it was something like comical, like a ham sandwich, But I think that, for me, starting in my 40s, it was like I had gotten to the point where I had previously had the lap band and gained all the weight back, most of the weight back. And, going into the doctor, I thought, well, I'll have the gastric bypass. That's the big one. Right. And if something happens, I don't make it through it because of my weight or heart issues, at least I'll have died during an operation with my parents and family knowing I did like the big one. I did the ultimate one. They don't have to feel bad about not pushing me harder. I did it.
So is there like this sense of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like kind of shame that or you think that people who are around you are thinking you're just lazy or you don't care or things like that?
I think they knew that I think it was more empathy. Like they knew I cared. They don't necessarily think I was lazy, but, I think they generally always saw me trying. It's just that, I'm an adult. I mean, I have plenty of alone time.
Sure.
And, after about a couple months ago, after my most recent plastic surgery, I did Ethan Suppley's podcast, talking about all of that. And it was so funny because we had both been on your podcast, and we finally, we speak the same language. We know like all the tips and tricks about sneaking food and always leaving something in the box.
You want some carrot sticks?
Oh, no, thank you. And it was funny because we both had the same experience in talking with you, in that we, speak the same language. And I think part of it is, knowing how to hide it, but you're not really hiding it, right? And just still kind of having that. I mean, he works out a ton more than I do. And we still have those same thoughts. Like right when his wife leaves the house or my husband leaves the house, we think...
Your husband?
My common law husband.
Oh,
I'm in Texas now.
Okay, that's not a thing.
A lot has changed since the last time.
Common law's not a thing.
Yeah, it is in Texas.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Wait, how does that work?
If there's there's three ways or three things. They each have to agree that they are in a relationship publicly together. So that means a mistress obviously can't claim this is my common law husband. Wow. They have to live together and share as a married couple, and then they have to have some sort of shared expense or something together.
Agree to be married, okay, but you have to represent to others that you're married.
Yeah, so like, I can't be a mistress. Like he has to also publicly agree.
So you refer to him as your husband?
Sometimes, just to make it easier, because I'm 47 years old. I get tired of saying boyfriend.
That's what happened with Gene Simmons' wife. You remember, now wife, because he didn't want to get married. She's like, I have a boyfriend. Like they have kids together. He's like, I have a boyfriend. And eventually he's like, okay, you're right. This is absolutely crazy. Like, who are we fooling? Well, you never told me that. So was there like a big moment?
No, it's just like moving in together.
No, but
in Texas,
moving in together is very different from referring to someone as your husband.
Well, I mean, by the time, we never dated. We just moved to Texas together, and it's like now we're together.
But let's talk a bit about this because, well, again, what would you talk about Ethan? There's so many things I want to discuss. Here. Please finish that thought.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it was really cool to be able to talk to him. Having that shared experience instead of like always explaining like what it's like being, having a fat girl body and a fat girl brain. I feel like you and I sometimes, and other people, like we're not speaking the same language.
Correct.
Like it's like if someone were to leave the room or leave, your first thought is not like, if you want a snack, now's the time to do it because no one's here.
That's how you.
That's like literally our first thought.
Okay. Wow. I remember there was a show, I forget what it was called, like the WB, and they were all competing to be interns at like Marie Claire, I think, or Vogue, one of those. And one of the girls was overweight. And, this is a point of contention because she's very into fashion. I mean, she was dressed very well, but it was just like, And it's like, I'm not trying to be a model. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what was really sick about that show is they always had shots of her eating. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they're all eating. Like, I promise you, every contestant on this show, you have footage of them eating. It's not unique to her. It's not like only fat people eat. And it was just really kind of interesting. But so again, what would you say to that person watching this who's having like...
Yeah, it's like, it's trite, but the best time is yesterday and the next best time is today.
Okay.
Right? In that there is no... like too late. I mean, because I was 41 when I decided to get gastric bypass, and then 42 when I came on your show, and I had by that point had lost, from my highest over a little over 100 pounds, and so at that point, it still wasn't too late. Like I kept having to move my goals, and I never knew that would be the thing. Like ultimately, I wanted to be under 200, and then I passed that. And then I wanted to be under 175. And then I passed that. And then I wanted to be 150. And so now my new goal is, 145. And then on top of all of that, being able to have the funds to save, my then next goal was to have the funds to save, to have loose skin removed. And so I did those two surgeries with my arms, and all the way around my belly in January, and then I had the next round coming up in 113 days.
Here's the thing.
But also none of that is necessary either. It's just nice.
But here's the other thing. If you went back in time and told yourself at your heaviest that one day you'd be 150, you'd have rolled your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have seemed not attainable. But also there can be happiness for me above 150. I mean, there was for a long time when I got to 175. It's kind of like you just don't know, because I didn't have something to look at. I mean, I weigh less now than I did in 5th grade. So it's like, how can I say, I'm not like looking back at my high school days and saying, oh, I wish I could have fit in my high school jeans or, something like that.
You can't now, but the other way.
Yeah, they're too big.
Yeah.
I actually did keep my smaller jeans, and they were like Gap size 14. And so now I'm in like a size 8.
This episode's brought to you by Farmer Bill's Provisions. Use code Malice for 15% off their delicious air-dried beef for bison today. Let's get back to the show. One of the things that you had mentioned last time you were on here was that you are going to miss going to your fat girl clothes stores. Like there's like Fat Hot Topic and Fat Gap.
Torrid.
Okay, yeah. For the girl who loves the Smiths and writing in her journal with fingerless gloves. Do you still miss the fat girl stores?
I do because, well, first of all, I haven't really done much clothes shopping.
Okay.
Because I don't really know. Since I got the skin surgery, and the reason the skin surgery was so important to me is I was still dressing the same. I was still wearing my Torrid clothes because I wanted stuff that covered my stomach.
Right.
I mean, this is probably the first time you've seen me since surgery. You've never seen anything between
I've never
here and
seen
here.
You have a waist.
Yeah.
And I am. This is just very emotional for me because it makes me think of Eric, and it makes me think it makes me think of all the people who are really convinced that it's impossible for them. And what I would say to them is, you're not magic.
And there's no one thing that I did that's magic. Like the surgery's not magic.
Right.
The fact that I eat less isn't magic. The fact that I have a personal trainer or work out and do yoga isn't magic. It's that I do all of them and consistently. So people say, well, what do you do? I said everything and all the time. There's never going to be a point where it's like, well, at least now I don't have to watch what I eat.
Right.
You could spend a lot of time in being like, oh man, that sucks for me. Boo hoo hoo. But everybody has something. I mean, I don't have to do much with my skin. I don't have acne. That isn't, I'm sure there's some people that are pissed off about that.
One of the things that you had to deal with a lot when you were doing TV, like you'd be on Fox and all these different shows. I mean, the audiences for any TV show is just completely merciless. And you'd be called the most horrific names, like you're fat, you're disgusting, you should engage in self-harm.
Say them to my face.
And it wasn't even just anonymous trolls. It was people using their real names to you, to your colleagues, and to the people booking the show. How did that feel when I did those things?
Well, I knew you did it from a place of love, right?
Tough love. And it worked.
Motivation.
It worked. You did.
I know. Well, when you started off, I'm like, are you taking credit for everything right now?
When you did do self-harm, you got unnecessary surgery. No, but in all seriousness, like, the thing is, I'm sure you knew every time you're going on these shows what the comments are going to be every single time. Like, how does that, like, I'm saying, obviously that feels terrible, but is that something you just get used to? What's that like?
I mean, it's like all in the name to sell books. And
okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
No, but, and that's another thing I talked to Ethan about, because we both were kind of similar in that the height of, well, I wouldn't say the height, because I wouldn't speak for him of the height of his success, but both of us had a lot of great career success at our heaviest. I had written 4 books, the head of CPAC for many years during the fun years, and, being able to do Red Eye when Red Eye was cool. And then now I kind of look back at it, and part of me is like sad, because here's like this great show where you could be free. And really, I was never free, because I'm never, I'm not going to be able to sit there and not feel self-conscious, and really be able to speak my mind. Like, I didn't have the freedom to make a fat joke.
Right.
But maybe that's, my own things. But, I kind of look back at it, also just memories in general, bringing Trump into politics. It kind of sucks. Like, all my photos with people are all of me at my heaviest or on my way there.
Right.
And so now I'm kind of like starting over, but, I don't know if there's more of that life in the future or if that's just that, because I don't necessarily always want to be talking about my weight for the rest of my
course,
life.
yeah.
Unless it's helpful to people, then definitely I will. And all the best tips and stuff are behind the paywall on my Substack.
What's the URL again?
Getbright.substack.com.
Was there a moment? Was there a moment where you saw yourself in the mirror and just kind of broke down in the sense of like, holy crap, it actually worked? Like when it actually clicked that you're not the fat chick anymore?
I don't know if it's like fully clicked. I mean, I think probably being able to wear something tucked in. And I think part of it is that there have been times when I've thought that, like thinking, wow, I've lost 100 pounds and doing shows and then still seeing the same kind of comments because, the fact is I need to lose 170 pounds.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, I don't want to have that false sense again. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe when I watch this video back, I'll feel that way.
I mean, first of all, every female in any of these shows is going to be called a fat bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Like I don't care how skinny you are. Like it's really a disturbing. I remember. I'm sure you and I are around the same age. Tracy Gold was the daughter on, what was that show called?
Growing Pains.
Growing Pains, yeah. And they were always having fat jokes about her. Mm-hmm. And she was literally anorexic and was like under 100 pounds. But since that was like the running gag, they just kept doing it. And it was like, like years later, I think a lot of people in America were like, this is really crazy. And it's also crazy, even at her heaviest, she was never remotely close to even average.
Yeah.
And she's being called this like little fatty. So, you can imagine little girls at home watching this, like, it's given and He-Man did a number on a lot of young men, I'm telling you.
Well, my cousin was a cheerleader for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she was on the fat list. And I mean, you're not even there if you're for real fat.
Yeah. My God. They had a fat list?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I guess it's hard to be anonymous with my last name, but I don't mean any disrespect to the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders because that's what people want to see. But, we have the thick Italian thighs and body, and she obviously looks great, and it's kind of motivating being like, don't blame it on genes. That's my genes.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? They had like a list of like fat
like people that got maybe their little shorts were starting to get too tight or something like that.
There was like an official list.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you can see it because they did a she was on the reality show Making the Team, and they talk about it. It's out in the open. It's not like something that they were hiding or something, but people that need to tone up.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay, but in all fairness,
maybe they've changed since then.
But their job, you're a Dallas cheerleader. Your job's to be eye candy. Like that is your job.
Yeah, and I don't know if you get to pick the size of your shorts or there's like a one pair of shorts.
Yeah. They all have to share. I mean. When was there a moment when it clicked in your head? I guess it's kind of similar to what I just asked you, that it's actually working. Like what point where you're like, I'm going to be normal?
I don't know. Ask me in a couple months.
You're still not there?
No. I think I want to get the next couple surgeries, and I'm not going to turn into the person that's always getting, surgeries. But I think, what I think it'll click when I feel like I can wear a bathing suit. I don't feel like I can wear a bathing suit. Okay.
Did you see that one girl on some reality show and she was like 600 and she lost all this weight and she's just looks like a candle?
Yeah. I mean, I felt like a candle.
No, but Lisa, no, it's literally like down to her knees and like her face. It's just like this. Mm-hmm. I wish I remember her name. I could pull it up. It was just.
Well, the easiest weight I ever lost when they removed 13 pounds of skin.
Okay. Oh my God. 13?
Mm-hmm. And that was, at the first, like I'm actually coming from the plastic surgeon. And so the next one, it'll only be about 5 pounds. Oh. So I'm at the end. Like that's all that's left.
Only 5. I mean, I do you, like only 5 pounds of skin. It just sounds so crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the next phase will be like, well, do I want to add?
Oh, yeah.
So that'll be a real mental thing.
So
like I'm going to come out weighing more.
Like health. So one of the things I always talk about in terms of getting in shape is if you're going to have something where it takes like willpower, you're screwed because willpower is a finite resource. Like if one of these stupid diets is like, only eat blueberries, that's not sustainable. Like at a certain point you're going to break and then it's just going to be like dominoes. So what techniques have you used to kind of stay the course for this long?
Yeah. And that's the other thing when I was listing off the things to do, I want to be like completely honest because I don't want people to think that it's so easy. I
easy.
also do Wegovy, the semaglutide.
The what?
Semaglutide, like Ozempic, but Ozempic's for diabetes.
Okay.
I take Wegovy once a week.
Okay.
I started that about a year ago when I thought I was around 190. And so that was kind of like, okay, well, 190 is where I'm going to end up at. And so my bariatric surgeon had suggested the Wegovy. And so I wouldn't say that's how I lost it, but I mean, no, thank you. That's the Wegovy talking. So I think that it's consistency in general, because that's really the secret. Is there's going to be times when you're not motivated and you don't feel like working out, and everybody always says, like, choose what kind of hard you want. Like, you want
I like that expression. Yeah.
So the pick your hard, I kind of look at it as pick your lazy. So when it comes to like my personal trainer, I feel like, what kind of lazy do I want to be today, where I have to pay attention to the clock and do everything myself? Or do I want her to just tell me what to do and I don't have to think about it? So I got to think like, pick your lazy. I don't want to have an extra, an extra hard, workout, or lose this weight that I've already lost again. So, there's not really any one answer for everyone. And that's why I say there wasn't a magic thing. It was just doing everything, consistently. And so that doesn't mean you have to do everything, like get surgery, get Wegovy, get plastic surgery if you want to lose your skin. Part of that, I think, is more like my age and not, snapping back. But I think it's just doing everything without looking for a shortcut. And there are going to be people that think that I did some level of shortcut, but I always look back and think there are plenty of people that have done the things that I've done and gained it back. And so now I'm almost 6 years out from gastric bypass and, have been pretty consistent in losing weight and keeping it off.
One of the things that I love about Roseanne Barr, who I'm friends with, is she was obviously like the most famous like fat lady. She was famous for it. Her stand-up would be about it.
She's my favorite. She is like my hero.
She's here now, you know that.
Yeah, I do know that.
And why'd you roll your eyes?
Because I want you to like introduce me or something. I want to meet her one day.
I'm happy to make that happen. She's even better in person than you would think.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing, like, especially when you're a little kid, because, I thought some things weren't attainable to me. And then here's Roseanne, with a kid or with kids, a husband that adores her.
Yep.
Her weight was only an issue in her mind. It was never in her husband's mind.
Yep.
And to be a little girl and see, those types of things are still attainable.
Rice cake?
Oh, no, thank you.
But the thing about her is she's the only person I feel comfortable making fat jokes to their face, because she's not fat anymore, but she's still famous for being fat.
Yeah.
And obviously it's Roseanne, like comedy legend, like she will get the joke. And 9 times out of 10, I'll be like, don't quit your day job. And it's like, I don't know what you think my day job is. This is my day job, being painfully unfunny. But it's just, she's also, like, that's the thing. People think of Roseanne. She's petite. She's like 5'2" and like even smaller than you. So it's just really wonderful.
Ouch.
But when you think of her, it's just like you think.
Well, no, and she had, I always say to Brett that, he lucked out because he got a skinny girl with a fat girl personality.
That's every time I meet a female, this test has never not worked. Who has a good sense of humor, right? Who actually is funny. 2 things. She was fat in high school, or she was raised with brothers. And 100% of the time it's true. So when you meet a hot chick who was funny, in her head, she's still in high school and she's still fat.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if you've ever asked Roseanne if she would have grown up always being thin, would she have been as funny as she is?
She talked about this. So at one point, she went on this insane diet of like, it was like lettuce, then one meal, and then one other thing.
One sensible meal.
Yeah, right? And she lost a ton of weight. This is when she was starting out in stand-up. And there's photos of her. And she looked great. She looked like Janet from Three's Company. And people stopped laughing. She goes, it's one thing when I'm like this fat, like slob, where people feel comfortable laughing with me. But if I'm like a hot young female, all of a sudden there's this weird tension. And it's just people didn't feel comfortable. And this was really interesting for her to see and learn for herself.
Mhm.
And obviously that problem got solved pretty quick.
She beat it.
Guys, why I talk about her all the time. I think about her all the time because she's like my imaginary friend. But what else is great about her is she doesn't realize she's Roseanne.
Mhm.
Like she doesn't realize what impact it is when you make her laugh. Like because she just thinks of herself as herself. So it's
Mhm.
just like, anyway, my point with this was when you said about do one type of hard,
Mhm.
how I interpreted that is pick one thing that's a pain in the ass to do, but that you know you could do consistently. And for me, it's go to the gym,
Mhm.
right? I don't like it. I do it 4 days a week. It's hard, but it's the one thing I'm like, this is the one thing you have to do.
Mhm.
I still eat Lucky Charms every day. I eat my gummy candy for my carbs.
Mhm.
I do not eat healthy, but the one hard thing is I do go to the gym.
Mhm. Well, yeah. I mean, and I think that the consistency part, and that's what I, originally tried to do after I got the gastric bypass is I found this yoga with Adrienne. She has a yoga studio here in Austin. And, but this is back when I lived in DC, and she puts out a calendar every month and a yoga video, some from archives, some new. And so I didn't start off like, oh, you have to do, strength training and doing this. It's like, all I got to do every day is do this yoga video. Sometimes they were 8 minutes, sometimes they were 40. And so it was just being told, all I got to do is cross it off and that's it. And so then it just became a habit that I had to do something every day. And
Getting to good habits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that Atomic Habit book, it's like so dorky, to be into like, oh, I'm doing habits and habit stacking, but it totally works. Our brains are really not that complicated.
That's everyone who's into fitness or all this stuff. It's like, it's just doing the work. It's just consistency. Like every bodybuilder, they always talk about that. It goes, there's no magic trick. It's just doing, this is why, like when I write a book, right? Like I hate writing. Like Dorothy Parker says, I hate writing. I love having written. It's like, I tell myself, if I could do 1 page a day, I'll have a book within a year. When you put in those terms, like, okay, this is something feasible. You could do 1 page a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always thought, well, I want to be a writer, but I couldn't write every day. And then, I mean, that's kind of the habit of a Substack is now I put something out every weekday, and so it's like, wait a minute, I do write every day.
Yeah. Folks, have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming a leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement toward better habits, which is led by the sponsor of today's episode, Fume. Flavored air isn't like vaping. If vapor was compared to sticky soda, Fume cores are closer to herbal tea. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. And with flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, vapor, or combustion. Fume draws flavor to your mouth and fills the void that ditching a bad habit can leave. You still have something to reach for. No vapor, no nicotine, no batteries, and it looks awesome. And it's made to fidget with, so you can calm anxiety with magnets, snaps, and clicks. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use code MALICE to get a free gift with your journey pack. Head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use code MALICE, or you can scan that QR code right on the screen to get a free gift with your order today. Let's get back to the show. You said that how much have you total lost?
I've lost 170 pounds.
So you're less than half of your weight.
Less than half of my weight. I've lost an overweight person, not just a person. I've lost an overweight person.
I'm also so glad. A lot of people lose that much weight, their faces look terrible. Like Star Jones, she looks like she's sick. I look back at myself when I was at my thinnest, leanest, and my face was too thin. I could only see it now that my body dysmorphia is kind of resolved. I'm so glad your face looks good, and it doesn't look like some. You know how you see this a lot when people lose a lot of weight, their faces look crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think down the road I might do something to my face, not my face, but
Sure.
there's
but
this was a lot fuller. I mean, you say I have a waist, I also now have a neck.
Right.
I have wrists. I have feet. I'm very vascular, a lot more vascular than I thought I was.
You also don't have to use that extender when you send the airplane. You gave me your extender.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell people what that is for who don't know?
Yeah. So I was going. Well, first, I'll tell you the most terrifying moment. I was dating a guy who was blind, so I thought I had really cracked the code of finding.
Why are you
the perfect
surprised
man.
that a blind person would date you?
No, I'm not surprised that he would, but I thought I had cracked the code of a guy that didn't care about looks and dated a blind guy. I read about that in my first book, but like we went to Six Flags, and that that thing is like swings, but it goes really high, and then everybody kind of fans out.
Yeah.
The
What's it called? Slingshot, I think it's called.
Well, it was like there were swings, so not the slingshot that slings you up, but it's like a maypole, but you know, up in the air. And the seatbelt thing, or not the seatbelt, the bar didn't lock. And so I'm literally up there knowing it did not lock.
Oh my God. Wait. Let's walk us through this, okay? Because I want to hear the thought process. That bar, when it locks, is to make sure your ass doesn't fly out of that seat, right? For everybody.
Well, I mean, because he came by and pressed it, but, you know, I didn't hear it. But, you know, what do these guys get? Minimum wage? They're not, you know, checking your safety. They just come by and touch every single thing.
My point is that lock is not there for display purposes.
Yeah, I know. I thought, well, I'll just hold on real good.
no, but there's
I thought at the very least, I'm not going to slip through.
Okay, but there was still a moment of like, is this is scary. It
was scary, but consider that in my head saying, wait a minute, I'm too fat. I don't think this was scarier.
Sure. But I'm just funny. It's just funny that the thought process, you're like, it didn't lock. And you're like, what happens now? I'm about to find out.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
There's some other
have you ever seen that fat kid on the roller coaster with Sharon, and he slides out of it and he's screaming and she's like laughing at him? But you're obviously safe.
Yeah, so it was the same kind of thing where I kind of knew this is an issue. And then there was a flight to Hawaii where I was able to get the seatbelt done, a flight to Phoenix, and I was able to get the seatbelt done, but it was like uncomfortable to the point that like when I got out, there was like red marks on my skin. And so I was in Phoenix a couple days, and I did like Amazon, you know, whatever, instant delivery or Prime or whatever to get an extender. And I got like every kind available because who knows what would fit in the next plane, so that I could do that flight to Hawaii and be able to breathe.
Can you explain to me what that is, though? People don't know that this exists.
Really? Okay. So,
of course, this is not
it's just like the male and female end of each side of the seatbelt. I mean, they have them on flights, but there's only like 2 or 3. It's the exact same thing they use to show you how to use the seatbelt. That's what the extender is.
Is that really it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one's the male end, one's the female end, and so that way it can, you know, join what's built in.
Yeah. So you have to. They have a thing. For you obese people, you could even ask for it, but you attach it to the seatbelt that's already there, so it'll
to
fit
give
over
you like some more room. And it gave you mine because it still took a while before like I still traveled with it, and so at some point, I guess I decided I didn't need it, and I signed it to you, and I'm still kind of heartbroken that it's not displayed in your.
You told me not
house.
to.
I know, but then I've also told you that you can.
I have. It is displayed now.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I guess I missed my invite. Just kidding.
Okay, I'll actually put it up as soon as this episode is done. Okay, one of the things you mentioned before we started recording is that pretty much everything now you have to redo or is different. Can you talk through a few of those things? Everything
I did, I have to redo?
Meaning like your entire, like every aspect of your life is different now when you lose that much weight.
Oh, okay. I think, yeah, when I mentioned that, I think I was thinking like since our last podcast, just everything has changed. I mean, I have, I live with someone. We moved to Texas. You have a little something like on the side of your face. You know, we're both now in Texas.
Oh, God. Let me fix this. Go ahead.
I'm living with someone, which also makes a different aspect as far as like losing weight. You know, I can't just sneak food when I want to, but it's also helpful because I live with someone who is healthy and works out every day and, you know, is very, very motivating and has been, you know, a trooper the whole way.
I want to talk about this as delicately as possible, okay? And I'm not trying to pry or anything, but there's something I know there's an issue with overweight, intimacy, right? Mm-hmm. How did you get to, or what techniques, what would you tell people? Because that's going to be a big, you know, mind fuck, like taking your shirt off, getting that moment. It makes people, you know, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but when you're heavy, you know this is an issue. Like, how do you get around that?
I mean, it's very easy to just wear clothes. I mean, to be honest, I have probably only been fully naked maybe in the last month.
Oh, wow.
I mean, my first book, which I wrote while I was overweight and about dating in DC. I mean, I really go into all the weight stuff there, but I think there's always going to be some modesty. I'm never going to be one of those, a bariatric Barbie that's just like, oh, now I'm going to dress like a stripper. That part of that might even be my age,
Sure.
And there are still things that I'm, uncomfortable with, hence the plastic surgery.
Sure.
But I think it definitely, I have to be understanding also in that the way that I might perceive someone else's emotions and how they view me is different than reality.
Is there something that Brett said or did that made you feel comfortable or confident? There must have been things he did that kind of reassured you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of funny. Like, I'm living, for my fellow fat girls, I'm living the fat girl dream. And that's the boy that I always had a crush on, who thought of me as a sister,
right,
does now become my common law husband.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's like, we've all had that. I mean, not even just like overweight girls, but everybody has had the person that didn't feel that way about them. And, I think probably us making such a big move together to Texas, because he was from Arizona, I was in DC, and then coming to Texas to, start a life together, which was something that was never on my radar. As far as like his deeds, I mean, he has taken care of me after my surgery, I mean, and none of that stuff is like the pleasant stuff,
Right, of course.
Doing the drains and all that kind of thing.
Oh God, okay. What does that entail, if we can get a little gross?
Well, your body has all this fluid from trying to heal itself, I suppose, and you have to drain them several times a day and measure them.
But what does that mean, drain?
There's a drain of my body fluid, like four little pouches with my fluid.
Wait, there's like, they put spouts in you?
Yeah, well, to take the fluid out. So it'd be a mixture of blood and
No, but I'm saying like there's literally like a hole.
Yeah. I mean, I could show you the the scars, but
how is it just that the fluids pool, and as long as you have like a spigot, it'll go through the spigot?
Yeah, it's long tubes to travel, and then there's like a thing like a balloon size, maybe a little bigger than a balloon. There are 4 of them.
They put tubes in you?
Mm-hmm. And then you have to, eventually you get them taken out. I got the first 2 taken out pretty early. And then the last 2 probably took like a month to get it fully out.
Does it have a smell, these fluids?
Yeah, but not anything that's like, it has a smell, but it's not something that's like, say, makes you.
It's not permeating outside of the container.
No.
I mean, that's got to look like a crime scene. Like when you're looking at that, it's got to be like, holy crap.
It's there. You have to. It's similar to like right before the surgery, or other embarrassing times in my life, like having to ask for the seatbelt extender. I mean, you can feel yourself leave your body and just be like, he just got my fluid on him, But it's like, or when he's packing a wound from the tummy tuck, you just have to leave your body and be like, he's willing to do this. Just put your embarrassment aside when the surgeon is drawing all over you and,
right.
Even, today, pushing and pulling and grabbing stuff. I mean, you just have to separate yourself from the action that is being done.
And also, it's, if you have to put it like, if I'm like really, really sick and in bed and you were taking care of me and I threw up, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, you'd feel bad for me. You'd clean it up.
Yeah. I mean, you imagine yourself being like the kid at school that threw up and the janitor coming in and everybody laughing at you.
But that's not reality. As adults, it's like you feel bad for the person. There's no part of you that's like, oh, this is so gross at all. So yeah, I mean, and that's real. I'm so happy for you. That's just so wonderful. Because I remember when we were on, you were basically like, I'm not dating. Like you thought you were never going to have a relationship. And you guys have been going strong for a long time now.
Yeah. I mean, we've been in Texas a little over 2.5 years. We came like right right after you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was definitely, a big move and definitely a big kind of jump for both of us, as far as like, relationships. And, it's just it's hard. I mean, there are still days when I'm just like, I look at him, I look at our life and be like,
Yeah.
I can't believe this is real, because it's like one of those things where I would chide myself for having the hope of something and being like, why would you even think that? Why would you try to have hope? That like hope is like the worst, because then you think it might happen. It's not going to happen.
Hope is the best.
Yeah. I mean,
And
perspective changes. And that's, I'm not saying, obviously, if you're overweight and you're happy, it's not like you shouldn't have hope for things. But also part of that hope could be that you could have a better life and have a healthier life.
I really want to push back on this, because it just shows how insidious cynicism is. Because it's not like you're hoping, oh, I hope I'm president. Or I hope I win Miss America. It's not happening. Okay, sorry, Lisa. Neither of those things happening. Ship has sailed, I promise. But to hope for having like a boyfriend who loves you, and to have a nice house, and to have a decent job, and to be able to shop at like Not Lane Bryant, these aren't crazy aspirations. Do you know what I mean? But it feels that way when this has been your entire life. And I guess no matter people listening to this, whatever their situation is, what they think of is, oh, I can never have that. What you're often hoping for is something that's really common. And if some of these people who aren't particularly special can have it, you could have it too. I bring this up all the time. Like I tell kids when I give these talks, like, let's suppose you want to be a writer, right? And you look at Hemingway or all these great authors and you're like, oh God. I go to the bookstore, look at those shitty books. That could be you.
Yeah.
You could be that shitty author. And when you put in those terms, like, wait a minute, I could do that. So it's like, I want to have a boyfriend. I want to have a nice house, and I want to, not have to shop at Torrent. Okay. It's just normal.
But to get back to the earlier, I missed Torrid. I missed because part of it, it's like knowing, knowing the sizes, being familiar. Like shopping is a pain, especially being in, I'm a little outside of Austin, so there's not really any stores. I think the only store that I've shopped in person is like Kohl's, and it just doesn't have the kind of clothes that I would want to wear. And the clothing sizes are all over the place.
Yes.
I probably wear a flippin' 2 at Old Navy. Who knows what their sizing is all about? And then if you get something like, if you wanted to get, like one of the things that I really wanted to get, after my plastic surgery was to get like a Gucci belt or some really expensive belt, because I've never been able to wear shirts tucked in. And then you look at designer stuff and it's like, well, you're still at the biggest size when it comes to like designer stuff.
But it's also, I mean, like I'm very into denim, as you know, and like jean sizing is all over the place. So all these websites, because a lot of it's from Japan, you have to go by the measurements. Like the number is completely irrelevant. It's like I could be a 33 here and I'm a 26 there. It's just because the numbers used to be the waist number, and then you had vanity sizing where they just didn't want people to feel fat. So just start changing numbers.
Yeah, and I
crazy.
think that's like Old Navy. I mean, I haven't shopped at Old Navy yet, but I remember that it was always like way off. So I haven't done a ton of clothing shopping, and part of it also is I have throughout my journey, and then there's been stuff like after plastic surgery where I had bought it like, oh, I'm going to be able to wear these jeans after surgery, and I end up losing so much on my waist that I'm tired of wasting money. I'm just going to wait.
Hi, we're the Nemeth Bros. I'm Nick, and he's Ryan, and I'm a 20-plus year pro wrestling veteran, amateur comedian, F-list actor, wannabe lawyer, and once ate a 96-ounce steak, and we have a new podcast because we finally got some time on our plate called the Nemeth Bros. The Nemeth Bros.
Hey, Nick, what is this podcast about?
This podcast is going to be about stories from the road for the past 20-plus years of my pro wrestling career, winning world championships, injuries, everything in between that you can think of. Stories about you and I putting together a comedy tour, you and I doing skits, me being an F-list actor, on-set stuff, and of course, Q&A, answered questions in depth from the fans who want to hear them the most.
Hey, what if I want to have special guests on that are like famous comedians or showbiz types?
There's no rules. This is America. Bring them in.
Hey, if we're bragging about accomplishments, I have been an extra on Jimmy Kimmel Live 27 times. Follow, rate, and review the Nemeth Bros podcast at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Nemeth Bros.
Let's get back to the show.
I'm glad you're being open about plastic surgery, because I think in our lifetime, because again, you and I are the same age, it used to be this huge stigma when we were kids, and all these celebrities who have plastic surgery were like, oh, no. It's just like we can see the wrinkles vanish. Like, what are you talking about? That's not just, you're a human being. Is that something that you kind of were reticent to discuss, or are you just very open about it?
I think I'm pretty open about it, just because I think of what would I have wanted to hear?
Yeah,
and that would be that you might need plastic surgery, you might need it, but also it might not be financially available to you. I'm like a real follower of Dave Ramsey, at least to the point of like no debt. So I did save up for it. And there's always going to be some guilt, like, or I could have bought a house, or I could have bought a new car instead of driving a 20-year car. And so there's still some guilt on spending that much money, which, all told could be $100,000 on plastic surgery. And, then there's people like, well, I don't want to lose weight or I don't want to get skin surgery or do this and that because I might have saggy skin or I might have scars. And it's just like, that's so much better than the other things. I mean, I'm not afraid to show my scars. It's also, this is pretty new. It'll look a lot better at some point. But then there's the other things. It's like, would I rather have this, or when I'm trying to work out and feel like I'm doing good and hear my skin slap and I start crying during my workout because it's such an awful feeling of hearing the slap, And so that when I think of that and then think of scars, this is so much better.
And I mean, you compare it to a car or a house. Well, you're in your body more than you're in your car.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of how Brett sees it, because we do things together. I mean, now when you're in a relationship, a lot of those decisions are, made together, and I am spending what could be, a house down payment, but it's not like, that's when I also have to remember, probably get some of that hope back in and think, well, it's not like this is the only amount of money you'll ever have.
Was there a concern on your part that maybe Brett was a chubby chaser and that if he lost the weight, he'd be out the door?
Well, no, we didn't get together until after I lost weight.
Okay. But you were still much heavier than you were now.
Yeah. I mean, let's see, probably by the time we got together, I only weighed maybe 40 pounds more than I do now.
You're saying only 40. That's a lot on your frame. That's a lot of weight.
Well, I know, but I mean, I was still out of Torrid and out of Lane Bryant by that point.
Yeah, but you're still not like within. I'm not trying to be mean, but you're still an overweight girl.
I know, but like as far as like since I've been in Texas, that's been what I've been, or 190, 170.
But I mean, again, 170 is not small.
Yeah,
now you're like normal.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll let the viewers decide. If I'm normal now.
I'm just, you would always send me these updates and they would make me so happy, just both to cheer you on and that things are getting better. Have you seen any changes in terms of your health, in terms of like maybe sleep or other things?
Yeah, definitely sleep, being able to have 7 to 8 hours in an uninterrupted, I have like other issues, like neurological issues, where that's like very important to be able to get that much sleep. I mean, it's definitely solid sleep. My like blood work, I never got to the point where it was starting to show up on my blood work, because I know like with the Healthy at Any Size movement, they always talk about their blood work still good. It's like, well, yes, you're 25.
Yeah, right.
So that wasn't bad yet. Definitely in stamina, being able to do workouts, being able to do things like burpees, just things I physically, couldn't do. And by the time I got gastric bypass, I was starting to see my feet swell at the end of the day. I remember one time getting on a train, like holding my suitcase, and it was so weird because I felt like I was paralyzed, but I physically couldn't get like, say, a 40-pound suitcase and, stepping up, it wasn't happening. I felt paralyzed, but I just like was not strong enough to lift my weight plus 40 pounds. And a guy grabbed my suitcase, so I could step up on the train. And I think that was kind of one of the first things that I remember where I was physically, unable to do something in addition to, the seatbelt. Because at that point, everything generally I would say the same for like, say, you and me and someone else. But then it started to be an issue where I'm not fitting in this world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like I have a friend who's 6'7", and he just talks about how like there's so many things that are just
Mhm.
like he can't do because and like on airplanes, forget it.
Mhm.
That must be fun. Now you don't have to have the armrest like shoving into your sides and cutting you.
Well, I still only fly first class. Like
Is
I
that
didn't
true?
give that. Yeah, I didn't give that up. Except for when I went to Gutfeld. I think they don't do first class because it was like on JetBlue or something.
I've only flown first class like twice. Wait, that's so expensive.
It's not when you consider.
It's like double the price.
Yeah, but like you don't have to pay suitcase fees. It depends on where you're going. Like I'm not flying first class to
It does
Europe or
depend on
something.
where you're going. It's double the price.
But I don't know. I like when I think of 300 versus 600. I don't think that's that much different.
It's double. It's that much different. It's literally double.
I am a girl. I don't know much about math.
The first time I flew first class, or I think it was one of the first times, when I left New York, I got a one-way ticket to Austin. I'm like, I'm going to treat myself. And the armrests were too far apart for me, for my midget ass. So I don't need to be in first class. You could stow me safely in the overhead compartment. I will fit there lovely.
I mean, to me, first class is more about being separate and about having the bathroom right there.
Okay. And also giving a finger to Rosa Parks. who I
paid for this.
Who I know you hate.
Right.
All her entire Substack is about why Rosa Parks was a fraud. It really gets repetitive, Lisa. I'm not going to lie.
Jeez.
Is there... Let's just talk a little bit about politics. Because again, you were the one who basically got Trump to do CPAC.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you look on his Wikipedia page, it's like fat girl me and Trump. I'm like, can I ever get a new picture? If Trump wins, I want a new flipping picture with Trump.
Okay. Are you...
And if he loses.
Are you... Are you supporting him? Like, what did you think he was a good president?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm as...
Are you a Chris Christie girl?
I'm not as mad as Ann Coulter.
Okay, sure.
But I totally understand and I, kind of agree. I think going into it, he realizes you don't use DC people to tell you who to hire.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where I am. I think he was a good president, but I think he could have been more fascist. No.
Wow.
No, obviously. As far as like how the left would define him.
Right.
I want more outsiders.
Well,
there's lots
this
of
episode sure took a turn.
I know, right? No, there's lots of good ideas. Like get the federal agencies out of DC and things like that, or get rid of them altogether. Obviously, but I think he tend to listen to the DC people, and also part of it is, I don't even know if I've talked about this, but when I had him at CPAC in 2011. That was one of the reasons I got fired for making CPAC into a clown show that would have someone like Donald Trump and also gays. And the people that criticized me worked in his administration. And the people that voted to have me fired worked in his administration. And so that's why I kind of look like, I think maybe they had they changed their minds. But he listened to the wrong people, and that's every politician what they say is
sure.
the problem, that they listen to the wrong consultants. But I think just that whole group in DC generally will go with the flow.
What do you think of CPAC now?
I mean, I don't follow it that much. I mean, I used to have it muted on X, but now it doesn't bother me that much. I don't really want to keep up with the drama that goes on personally with people. But from what I hear from people, I don't want to say pay for play, but it is a lot more sponsorship based and that kind of thing. And I think part of it getting so big is you don't really have those special moments where, like one of the things that I did, there was this girl that was like obsessed with Red Eye or a big Red Eye fan. And Gutfeld and Andy and, I forget. What's the other one's name?
Tom Shalhoub?
No, the old Red Eye days.
Bill Schultz.
Yeah. They all came to CPAC. They weren't speaking, but they came. And, I remember telling this girl that her employer wasn't going to be able to sit at their ticket and told me to make sure that you take their seat at the dinner. And I had it so she was sitting at the table with the red eye guys. And I feel like now you can't make those moments happen because it's like people are in and out. And, I just don't know what level of interaction people have with, the big speakers and that kind of thing anymore. And also, I just like making those moments happen. I mean, I liked being able to meet Rush Limbaugh, meet Catherine.
Catherine who?
His wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But before I think they were even dating. And just, when Romney dropped out of the presidential race for McCain, he didn't have a meeting room. So I let him use my hotel room.
Oh.
I mean, it's just like those random things.
What's he like in person? Is he robotic?
Yeah. He's a politician.
No, but
right?
a lot of them, I'm sorry, a lot of politicians are warm.
That's not true. Yeah. There's some that are
very
like
charming.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And some are fun, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to be able to go to CPAC. I'm kind of bummed, like I've never been invited back to some of the things, with the exception of, Gutfeld. But I just would like to be able to do some of the things that I did before, where I didn't feel like I could be as free and as outspoken and smile like I can now.
Lisa, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Being able to cross my legs.
What?
Being able to cross my legs.
You are welcome.
I love reality TV on Pluto TV.
Same, and I love that it's free.
It gives me the freedom to watch Bravo's Real Housewives Vault channel.
I'm totally free to watch Bad Girls Club.
I'm free for Jersey Shore.
Love and hip hop, I'm free all day.
Survivor, I'm free all night.
With hundreds of free reality shows, you are totally free to watch what you love on Pluto TV.
Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.